Okay, welcome. Today I am going to be talking about my thoughts as I have homeschooled and graduated 3 high schoolers. And I want to give you some things that how my thought process has sort of changed and some things that I have learned over those years. Now, I am a homeschool mom of 4. I have one more left. He's in 8th grade and getting ready to go into high school. So that is what has brought me to this point and the idea of sharing this video with you. So I hope it is helpful. And I have about 3 points that 3 areas that I want to share with you that I have learned things in homeschooling high school. If you are new here, my name is Rachel, and we are a Christian homeschool family. We are usually eclectic in our homeschool material. I do enjoy living books. We do enjoy some Charlotte Mason style curriculum. So if you are new here and that interests you, I would love for you to join us by subscribing. And if this video is helpful, give it a thumbs up. That would encourage me. Okay, the first area that I want to share with you is just about requirements. Now, this could be just your own personal requirements as a homeschool parent or your state requirements. Now, I know every state doesn't have requirements. I do live in a state that has some requirements. We're not the strictest state. So keep that in mind. And I have done videos sort of more detailed, just specifically about credits and requirements and things like that. And that's not what this is about. I just want to share my thoughts on how in the beginning, especially with my first one, I just felt like this was the requirements and I had to follow them to a T. And I have learned over the years that you do have some flexibility in those requirements. And I'm going to give you some examples here. I do understand when you have a child that you know, and that is college bound, that you may not have as much flexibility, but I still feel like you could consider different things because we are homeschooling our child, not a group of students, and we have more freedom to do what we think is best for that child. So in homeschooling high school, I'm thinking about science. For example, I know for me it's listed usually a physical science, a biology, and then a science of your choice, and at least a couple labs. Now, we have pretty much followed that. I know for my oldest, I felt like there was a lot of pressure on doing physical science in 8th grade and biology in 9th. And I was a little bit more flexible with my second and third on that. They did biology in 10th. But even now, as I have learned to feel like so much, like I wish I could look back. So I'm sharing with you, if you are new to high school, or maybe you're having your second or third one in high school, that I have seen many parents who wait until almost 11th grade, 10th or 11th grade, to do biology. And I'm like, wow, I wonder why they do that. Well, the more I have done this, the more I realize, and this depends on what you're using for curriculum and how deep you want to go, that's a deep subject. I was just listening to a mom recently who was talking about she didn't read everything in the book because their child was just entering 9th grade at a 14-year-old age. And sometimes the maturity level, as you're coming out of middle school, because that's really what's happening, is that you're not quite ready for all that information. And sometimes it's not that you're not quite ready, it's just hard, a lot of hard information to soak in, to study facts, to be able to spit them back out and remember them in another 4 years when you might have to take it at college. So being flexible and thinking about what would benefit your child in what they need to remember and know. With physical science, you're reviewing a lot of what you may have learned when they were younger. You can also pick out specific things like an earth science, or maybe even start out with something like life science that may not be as deep as biology. My oldest did take biology in 9th and advanced biology in 10th, and he did okay, but I really think it would have meant more to him if he was more mature and could really grasp the depth of the details of all that. So I'm just thinking about these things as I'm considering what I will be doing for science in the next few years for my, I would say, uprising 9th grader. He'll be in 9th grade next school year. So I wanted to share that thought with you. And really some other things that I want to mention about requirements is that you can combine subjects. And one of the most common areas that homeschool parents do that with is your language arts and your writing. There's writing in so many different areas. There's also reading that you may have to do for different subjects, not just language arts. For example, a friend of mine, her boys did speech and debate. There was a lot of research, a lot of writing, and of course, a lot of communication. And that is what we want for our students as they are going through high school and preparing for college. So she had the opportunity to take a lot of the work they did and put it in the requirement of English. As they're writing, they also could have done an elective as in speech, or there's lots of other titles that you could use. So you can do some combined things. Maybe your child is doing something for history and they're doing a presentation and they're writing out a paper for that. You could combine that with some English as they're working on that specific paper, maybe take a break from the English. And that is what we have done over the years. I know one of my boys who was in 4-H and did a lot of photography ended up having to do some writing and presentations for that. And then he started his own YouTube channel. Now the YouTube channel was to present how-to videos of how the camera works, how to take pictures. And he had to do a lot of communication and writing with that. So during some of that time, I would count some of that work towards his English credit. So I just wanted to make sure, I know a lot of parents already know this, but if you're new to homeschooling high school, or maybe you're just in the midst of it and you haven't thought outside the box quite yet, that these ideas might be helpful. One other subject that I want to talk about, I want to mention math, because I've had a couple that have struggled with math. And the requirements when you enter high school usually start out with algebra, geometry, and algebra 2, and then a higher math. But I've had one, my second really struggled with math, and I really wish I would have understood a little bit more back then. I should have taken him back to some basics before I kept trying to move him forward by choosing different curriculum that I hoped would help. Now, for me, I will let you know there are some better options out there right now that may help with that. I know for us, my fourth son has really, really struggled, and we found something that has been beneficial. And I know there are a couple other ones. But I know I had to start my son last year in 7th grade all over again from the beginning, from basic beginnings. And it really has helped. He's moving forward much quicker, and I'm so thankful. And I wish I would have taken the time and understood how important that was before I tried to move my second son. Now, he did pre-algebra. My second one did pre-algebra in 9th. So not every child is gifted in every area, but he was also my one that was doing presentations and writing, and he was a really good communicator. So God has different purposes and plans for each one of them, but I do feel like math is important, and it helps you with your organization skills, and especially as they get older, and I want to say 11th, 12th grade, when they get a job and start possibly driving and thinking about purchasing a car, that definitely some type of consumer math, something that would help them as a life skill. So it's important to comprehend math even to the basic skills. So you don't want to skip that. But I want to mention that sometimes we need to step back. And if you have already passed the opportunity of middle school, which I suggest, and I wish I would have done with my second, that that's the best time to make sure that you're observant to that and not be afraid then to do it. And then they'll be more prepared as they're entering high school. So my second thing I want to mention is opportunities. I know as a Christian mom, I really felt like I was really just praying for opportunities. I didn't know what they would be. I knew, especially I think about my oldest, that he had some interests. God gave him a couple things in middle school, but as he was in high school, the Lord opened up a door for a job with someone that works in the trades. And he really discovered that he loves to work with his hands. And I'm so thankful for that, and he still enjoys that, and God has used him above and beyond what we thought. So I am thankful for that. And with my second one, again, he had a lot of opportunities. 4-H really opened the door to speak in front of people and to get a little bit more comfortable with that and things like that. Now, you may think opportunities as sports and activities like that. And I do think there's a lot of good things in that. That was just something that we could not commit our family to. And once we made that decision, we feel like we sort of just need to stick with that with the rest of them. Each one of my boys, even my third one, just really prayed about what God would have him to do. And he opened doors for him. So just making sure as a parent that, and it's easy to think about and plan out their life in your mind. Do you ever do that? And God has a totally different plan. He has a perfect plan for them. And sometimes we just need to step back and ask the Lord to help them see that and to help us to be open and know what to say yes to and what to say no to. So just keep that in mind. So the last thing I want to mention is grades. And I'm going to mention math again. So my oldest did really well in math to the point when he was in algebra, really all the high school classes, I just let him look at that book, look at the answers, and check himself. When he took a test, if he got some wrong, and sometimes he did, I would say, look, you probably know, just go look at it again and figure it out. And he would. And most of the time, he fixed it. So I knew that he knew the information. He just needed to think through it a little bit longer. But it made me think, as I wanted to share this with you, when I was in high school, I went to a Christian school, that our algebra teacher had some health issues. I don't really remember the whole reason, but we had a substitute for a whole semester. So really, we have a whole new teacher that's not a math teacher trying to teach us algebra. Well, we didn't do well. And I mean, we're teenagers and we have a teacher that's not a math teacher. So, well, our teacher came back the following semester and she was very merciful on us and she wiped that whole grade. And she began to teach us algebra and she would even stay after school, which majority of us did because we wanted to learn, we wanted to pass, we wanted to do well. And she gave us that opportunity. Now, they could have all got to that point and thought, they're not good at this subject. She was able to be flexible with the situation. And I think as homeschool parents, we should have even a little bit more freedom in different areas, different situations. I'm not sure what your situation is, but this just came to my mind as I'm thinking about this. I had one that had some health issues. He's a type 1 diabetic, and there were times where it was a hard day to get through when you're struggling with your health like that. So you might be in a situation like that. Be merciful, be kind to yourself, and flexible with your child. Your goal is for them to move forward. And it may take a little bit longer than you expected. Okay, so now I feel like I'm sharing some extra information with you, but that is fine. So back to the grades. I was talking about my oldest. So I would just wipe out, if he got, like I said, if he got one wrong and he fixed it, then I would just count it. Because I knew he knew how to do it. I knew he understood it. And that was the important thing. Now, I do know if you have to test or go into college, that you're not going to have that flexibility. He did end up taking an online math program his senior year, and that helped a little bit. So you want to build them to that point. And not every child has the maturity to do or look at their answers right away. You have to have a little discernment on that. Another example would be our history that we use is more of a Charlotte Mason style. We use living books, they write narration, they have different projects and things that they have to do, and that's how they're graded. There never is any test, there is never any memorization or anything like that. So every family is going to be different in the curriculum they are using, and every family will be different in the way they grade it. I have mentioned Liebens, who has the Home Scholar, and she actually has a lot of information, good information about grading system in high school. And there's lots of different ways you can do it, and it will depend on the curriculum that you're using. I will link her below because I feel like I'm not going to go into great detail about that right now. I've talked a little bit about it in some of my other high school videos. But research that out a little bit before you just grade a test and mark a bad grade. That it's more important for them to get the information. You don't want them to be moving forward and never really have comprehended their information. Maybe there's another way you can grade them. Maybe if they could write a paper or a couple paragraphs on that specific chapter. I'm thinking about science. Maybe they really struggled with the terms, but they understand the concept. So there are other ways that you can grade your child on a specific subject. So I just wanted to share that thought with you also. I hope you join me as I will be sharing more high school videos in the next month or two. I have a lot that I am just preparing and doing some research for my son in 8th grade now that I want to share with you. So if you have any questions, maybe it's a question you would like a little bit more information or even a video on, please share below. I will look into that. Maybe it's a comment that would be helpful to all of us who are homeschooling through the high school years. I would love to chat with you all. I do appreciate you all watching. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you again soon.